Looking to ace your object-oriented programming interviews? The concept of inheritance is a must-know. It's not just about understanding it, but knowing how to explain it in interviews, handling tricky questions, and showing the interviewer that you can think in terms of real-world problems. Today, let's break down inheritance, hit you with some example questions, and give you the tips to answer them like a pro. So, what is inheritance? Here's a clear, interview-ready definition. Inheritance is a feature of object-oriented programming that allows a class to inherit properties and methods from another class. Think of it as a way to build classes in a hierarchy, where subclasses can reuse and extend the functionality of their parent classes. In an interview, don't just give a dry definition. Add a real-world analogy. Say something like, inheritance is like a family tree. Just as children inherit characteristics from their parents, subclasses inherit characteristics from their parent classes. This small twist shows the interviewer you're not just memorizing concepts, you actually understand them. Here's a tip for you. Interviewers appreciate candidates who can give simple explanations for complex topics. This helps them gauge if you can explain concepts to non-technical stakeholders if needed. Now, let's visualize a class hierarchy, a common structure you'll see in OOP interviews. At the top, we have the animal class with attributes like age and weight. Then, mammal is a subclass of animal and has specific attributes like gestation period and litter size. Under mammals, we find the canine class with attributes like hunting skills and tail length. Further down, retriever is a subclass of domestic canine with properties like leash-trained or indoor-outdoor preference. Finally, Labrador is a specific type of retriever with attributes like AKC certification and duck hunting trained. Here's a pro tip for you. Interviewers love hearing examples during interviews. When you explain inheritance, pick relatable examples, like this animal hierarchy. It's concrete and shows that you know how to connect code to real-world scenarios. Inheritance offers big advantages, especially when it comes to scaling and maintaining code. Reusability. By inheriting common traits, subclasses don't have to duplicate code. They reuse code from parent classes. Scalability. As systems grow, it's easier to add new types or subclasses without reworking the entire system. Maintainability. Changes to a parent class propagate down to subclasses, making maintenance efficient. Here's an interview insight for you. When an interviewer asks, "Why use inheritance?" don't just list these benefits. Give a small example, like, if I wanted to add a new breed of dog, I wouldn't have to rewrite all the attributes. I'd just extend an existing class. This practical touch will set you apart. Let's dive into some common interview questions on inheritance and how to answer them. Question 1. What is the difference between a superclass and a subclass? A superclass is the parent class, and it contains general attributes and methods that are shared by all subclasses. A subclass is the child class and inherits from the superclass, adding its own unique attributes or methods on top of the inherited ones. Here's a tip for you. Follow up with an example. In an animal class hierarchy, mammal would be a superclass, and dog would be a subclass. Question 2. How does inheritance interact with encapsulation? Encapsulation allows a class to restrict access to its data, only exposing what is necessary. In inheritance, encapsulation is important because a subclass inherits the public and protected attributes and methods of its superclass, but not its private ones. Here's a tip for you. Mention why this is useful. This structure lets us control what data is accessible and maintain data security across a hierarchy. Question 3. What are some limitations or downsides of inheritance? One downside is the potential for overly complex hierarchies. Deep inheritance chains can make the code harder to understand and maintain. Another limitation is tight coupling, where subclasses are tightly bound to the superclass, making changes more complex. To avoid deep hierarchies, we can use composition as an alternative when the relationship between classes doesn't fit the is-a pattern required for inheritance. Question 4. How would you implement multiple inheritance in languages that don't support it? In languages like Java that don't support multiple inheritance directly, we can use interfaces to achieve similar behavior. By implementing multiple interfaces, a class can inherit behaviors from multiple sources without the complications of multiple inheritance. Here's a pro tip for you. Interviewers love problem-solving approaches. Showing how you'd tackle limitations tells them you're adaptable and think critically about language constraints. Here's a bonus concept: polymorphism. It's a common follow-up topic to inheritance questions. Polymorphism lets subclasses use methods from their superclass, but with different implementations. Imagine an animal class has a method make sound. A dog subclass could override this method to return bark, while a cat subclass might override it to return meow. Question: how does polymorphism benefit inheritance? Polymorphism allows subclasses to define specific behaviors while maintaining a consistent interface. This makes it easy to use objects of different subclasses interchangeably, which is crucial in large systems. Insider tip: in an interview, emphasize how polymorphism enhances flexibility. Try saying, "Polymorphism allows us to extend or modify behavior without altering the superclass or existing subclasses, keeping our code modular." This shows a deeper understanding. Let's go over this inheritance diagram together, step by step. Visualization is key in interviews, so don't be afraid to ask for a pen and paper to sketch out examples. 1. Start with the animal class. Add broad attributes like age and weight. 2. Move to mammal. Show that it inherits from animal, but adds more specific properties like litter size. 3. Continue down to canine and retriever. Highlight that each subclass gets more specific attributes like hunting skills for canine or leash-trained for domestic canine. Pro tip: when describing this, emphasize how the structure avoids redundancy and how attributes flow down from general to specific. Interviewers appreciate candidates who think in terms of efficiency. To sum up, inheritance is about organizing code so that classes can inherit properties and behaviors from other classes, promoting reusability and structure. If you're preparing for interviews, remember: 1. Explain inheritance with relatable examples. 2. Be ready to discuss both the advantages and limitations. 3. Know how to differentiate between related concepts like polymorphism and encapsulation. 4. Show how inheritance keeps code dry, don't repeat yourself, and supports scalability. And that's a wrap! With these insights and tips, you're ready to impress interviewers with your understanding of inheritance. Good luck, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more interview prep tips. Let's keep coding smart and landing those job offers.